Thank you everybody for attending today. My name is Tina Laffer. I'm the Director of Community Engagement and Outreach here at the Carroll Center for the Blind. And I'm so excited to welcome Laura Bozeman, who is presenting today. She is a Vision Studies Professor and Graduate Program Director at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, also affectionately known UMass Boston. And she is here to chat with us today all about the different Vision Studies programs. So I am both looking at the camera in front of me. Hello, everybody who's joining us remotely, but I am also looking out at the crowd. We are doing both an in-person and remote Zoom call. So hello to everybody in the audience, but also hello to everybody online. So I will be monitoring the chat off and on, Laura, and letting you know if there are any questions that are very pertinent that should be asked during your speech, or if we should hold off to the end. And we also have folks here in person that will be asking questions as well. And I may be speaking either for them or using the microphone. We'll see
Sure.
what works best. All right, so I am going to now mute myself and turn off our camera and let you take it away, Laura. Thanks again so much for hosting this incredible Zoom discussion.
Oh, thanks so much, Tina. I appreciate it. Please feel free, anyone, to post a question or ask a question or just speak up, because I want this to be what you want to hear. I've got a few slides, but that's really for later sharing with you if you wish. And so I want you to get the information you want out of this. I have been at UMass Boston for 19 years now, been at a few universities, been in the profession for a while, came in as an orientation mobility specialist, and then was a TBI for a short while, and then now also a certified low vision therapist. So anyway, I'm excited to let you know about the program, and but again, we've got 7 specializations. So, if you really want me to concentrate on a few things, then, just holler at me and say, nah, yeah, we don't want to hear about that. Let us know about this. So, so if there's anything before we start, anyone have a question or a comment? If not, I'll try to get this PowerPoint up here. And again, this is for sharing later and maybe just to hit the high points. All right. Okay. Let me see if I can move all of our pictures somewhere where they're out of my way. All right. Okay. We're just going to talk a little bit about vision studies here today at UMass Boston. And what I thought I would touch on today is just an overview of the program and how it's delivered. And then we do have these different specializations or tracks. Probably a little bit about application information if you're interested in that. If not, there's other ways for us to get you that information. Some specifics about each one of the tracks. And then, of course, please feel free to throw in any question or comment or that doesn't make sense or anything like that. I just ask that you identify yourself, just so everyone knows who's speaking. Thanks. Okay. All right. Why won't you go on? Let me try this. All right, that'll work. As you may or may not know, our program, the Vision Studies program, is generally a regional program. We're pretty much the only one in New England, and we've been that way for a while. There was a program in New Hampshire for a little while for TBIs, but we have been online or remote long before COVID happened because of that reason. Because, if you happen to live in northern Maine, it's really, really difficult to travel 7 hours to Boston to once a week to go to a class. And so it's just never been an option that worked very well. So we've been regional the whole time. We are a graduate program. There's no particular reason for that. It's just we started under special education at UMass Boston and then separated ourselves and became a standalone program. And so we've always been graduate. But the one good thing to remember through that, even though we are graduate, there are no GREs. We got that waived quite a few years ago, so no graduate record exams. Usually that's the first thing anybody ever asks me. So we don't have that. Depending on the track, you can do a master's or you can do a graduate certificate. I'll explain that a little bit more. We're transferring from Blackboard Learn platform to Canvas next semester. So for all practical purposes, our courses are run in Canvas learning platform. It is accessible, certainly online. So that's good. We meet all state and national accreditation requirements. For the TVI, Teacher of Students with Vision Impairment, those folks are licensed in Massachusetts first, so we meet the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education requirements. And then there's reciprocity across all other states, believe it or not, except for, it just left me. I have to think about it. There's one state that won't accept our reciprocity, but oh my God, I'll have to think of it. It just left me. And for those other tracks, we meet all of ACVREP requirements for accreditation and the AER Accreditation Council. Most of our programs have been run through there as well. All of our instructors have credentials in what they're teaching. So, and then I have a website here. It's not the UMass website, but it's our own personal where we can put anything we want to up there about our program. And it's nercve.org for Northeast Resource Center for Vision Education.org. So, but you'll have that, and it just gives a lot more detail. So I'll start with the Teacher of Students with Vision Impairment. This is our one that is master's only, and that's because that's what the Department of Education requires in Massachusetts. It has to, you could have 5 masters already, and if you want to go into our program with of TSVI, then you're going to end up getting another master's because that's the only way we can do it. Again, there's reciprocity across the rest of the states. TVI's work with, oops, someone's trying to come in, sorry. TVI's work with the student population, birth through age 21, or if the person graduates from high school, then it would be a shorter time. And mainly, the TVI provides access to education. That could be everything from making an assignment accessible, teaching Braille if the student's learning media assessment dictated that, or just figuring out how that particular student can access the education process. And it's right now, the master's is 11 courses, 37 credits. There are some Massachusetts tests for education licensure that are required before you go into your student teaching. We also call that practicum. So just to be confusing, but those MTELs are accessible as well. And our program coordinator is Tammy Reisman. Some of you may know her. I've got her email here. Um, she's very flexible and works with everyone. Typically, our master's degrees, people take 2 courses per semester. You can take less. You can take one, if you've got a busy home life or just getting back into the school mode, then you may just want to take one, and that's fine as well. But that's just the typical load that we do. All right. Orientation mobility. Orientation mobility specialists are certified across the lifespan. So they teach all ages. They teach babies. My first job after my uh, getting out of school was working birth to 5. Um, teach travel skills, spatial concepts, those kinds of things. Uh, Depending on the age of the person you're working with, like if you're working with a baby, you might work in a group, but typically orientation mobility is 1-to-1. You may be outside, like most of your age folks, walking 17 blocks to teach someone how to get to the store or how to negotiate transportation to, get to work, things like that. The master's is 12 courses, 37 credits. We also have a graduate certificate that is typically less courses. And to give you an example, let's say someone is a TBI or a vision rehab therapist, already has that vision credential. They've already taken Braille, they've already taken anatomy, those kinds of things, and they want to add on a graduate certificate, in this case in orientation mobility, then it would most likely even be less than the 28 credits I have here. Sometimes people who already have a master's will uh, just not want to take those extra 3 courses to get that second master's. And so you can get the full graduate certificate with no credentials in vision for 28 credits. But if you don't have a master's, most of us tend to say it's probably in your best interest. Go ahead and get the degree. Take a couple of courses extra to get the degree, and that usually means a little more money in your pocket. But it's fairly flexible. Again, no GRE, so that's great. Our program coordinators for orientation and mobility, sorry, let's see if I can go back, are Derek Wright, and I have his UMass email. It's derek.wright@umb.edu, and Paula Kosior. And they will give you all the help you need if you decide to go that route. We also have a vision rehabilitation therapy track, VRT. Used to be called rehab teaching quite a while ago. Typically, VRTs work with the adult population. I disagree with that because, daily living skills, you need young students to understand, how to do chores and how to clean things and how to wash dishes and all of those things that all of us grew up learning. But they typically, let me let someone in. They typically work with the adult population, doing daily living skills, teaching technology, maybe teaching Braille, along that line. So same thing as orientation and mobility. We offer a master's or a graduate certificate. The graduate certificate, if you do the full thing, is 28 credits, but it can be less if you're adding on to a vision credential. Dan Norris is our program coordinator for VRT. He's amazing, if you may know him. And probably our newest master's is the Assistive Technology and Vision Impairment, ATVI. These folks work across the lifespan teaching assistive technology. So you learn in that program how to teach assistive technology to folks who have vision impairment or who are blind. Same thing. We offer a master's or a graduate certificate. Master's is 11 courses, 37 credits. The grad certificate is the same, 28 credits or less if you are adding on to a credential. Rachel Sessler-Trinkowski, she's amazing. And she is our person. This leads to CADIS. I didn't say what all of these lead to, but this leads to a certified assistive technology. I have to look at it. Instruction specialist, I think is what it is. Um, and so, she is our program coordinator for this particular track. We also have a couple of graduate certificate only, and these are typically things that you add on to our vision credential. We don't offer a master's in this area yet. Cortical or cerebral vision impairment, CVI. Some people use neurological vision impairment, NVI. Just this is what it is. We have a 5-course, 15-credit grad certificate, and you could add it on to any vision credential. And we have also no GRE, so that's exciting. Oh gosh, I have this wrong. So sorry. Program coordinator is not Callie Brusegard. It is Tammy Reisman. I will fix this before I send it out. I just got confused. But we're working with the Department of Ed right now, and they've been working on this for about a year, that they want to do an endorsement that would actually be recognized. So I'm hoping that that will get done relatively soon, because they love the coursework and it's what they want to do. So that's good. Our newest thing, did someone have?
Laura, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Somebody put into the chat, does the tech coursework lead to CADIS?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, it definitely
thank you.
does.
Perfect. Thank you.
That-
So sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. The orientation mobility leads to comms. It prepares you to be able to take the exam just like the AT does for CADIS. TVI prepares you for the endorsement and the licensure with reciprocity. And VRT, same thing. Either the grad certificate or the master's prepares you to take that exam and be certified through ACBREP as a certified VRT. So good question. This new one is deafblindness. Right now we have a 5-course, 15-credit graduate certificate. You can add on to a vision or a deaf credential for this. Right now, these are aimed at the student population. Although we've had some requests from different folks at Helen Keller to look at what we'd need to do to tweak this, add to it so that it would work for the adult population. But right now, this is what is going through our governance. We have all 5 courses approved, and actually offering the 2nd course in a cohort starting in the spring. They took the first one this fall, but we're just waiting to get the actual thing that you can apply to, the certificate in deafblindness. No GRE, and the program coordinator is Callie Brusegard, and I have her email here.
So
All
Laura,
right. Yeah.
we just had another great question.
Yeah.
Haley asked, do you need a bachelor's degree to take part in the graduate certificate programs?
It's a great question, and yes, you do. Or if you're an international, if you got your degree internationally, it does have to be a bachelor's equivalent. Yes. Yes, it does. Anything else before I meander on.
That's all we have from the chat right now. Somebody did ask about email addresses that you've been sharing, but I let
Yes,
that person know that this PowerPoint will be shared afterwards, so no need to
yes,
try to write down all these email addresses now.
right, right. I mean, I could put them in the chat, but still, I'll share this once I make the correction to the CBI program coordinator. Must have been late at night when I was doing that. Okay. We have two different application deadlines, and the only reason is because there's no good reason. It's just we couldn't take 7 different applications we only take in people, new folks, once a year. And it was just too much doing so many different tracks all at once. So TBI and O&M, they're our oldest programs. The whole program started with O&M a long time ago when Boston College closed their program in orientation mobility a long time ago. And then we added on TBI and then VRT and then CBI, then AT, and then now working on deaf blindness. But TBI and O&M, the application deadline, meaning everything has to be into the portal. There's a portal by February 15th, and those classes begin in the summer. And by summer, it's like the 3rd week or so in May, and it goes the full summer. We run 3 full semesters, but remember, it's online, so not quite as bad. We run fall, spring, summer. And it could be the 3rd week in May for summer to kind of mid-August, just so you know. So as long as you have connections to the internet, you can be wherever you want to be and still do this. The second application deadline for VRT, AT, CVI, and deaf blindness is June 15th, and that coursework begins in the fall for everybody. You have to have all transcripts. I don't care if you took 2 courses in how to mold clay, they're going to want that transcript if it's a college or university. And you can send them electronically. They have to be official, but they are sent electronically through the portal, which makes it easier as long as your university did electronic. And then it gets a little more complicated if you have to send them by mail or the university has to send them by mail, but we can do it.
I have a
2 letter,
question. I'm
yeah.
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
With the application deadline, I know there was the courses that you had to take if you didn't have the education background.
Mhm.
You have to complete those before
You're
applying.
talking about for TVI?
Yes, sorry, for TBI.
Yeah, there's some prereqs, but um, for the most part, you just, Tammy works with you. You don't have to have them all before you apply. You just have to get them done toward the first part of your program.
Okay. and
Yeah.
just working in a school, not as a certified teacher, is there any credits that can be applied with that work?
No, they don't give lived experience or practical credit. It's not our decision. Sometimes we think that would be some of the best stuff, but the university does not do that.
Okay.
Yeah, so it kind of has to, yeah. I mean, but that could play into your letters of recommendation. I know that's not the same, but
Right. Or the practicum, I was wondering about how that works too.
yeah, the student teaching, if it's TBI, it's student teaching. You work under the auspices of a fully licensed TBI who
Okay.
shares their caseload and you get practice teaching. That's the last thing you do. It's your last course.
Okay. Because I just started working with a boy here and his TVI is the one that sent me all this information
Wonderful.
and had said that we could do that towards the end, but I just wasn't sure how that worked. So
Sure. Yeah. And Tammy always really helps. In fact, any of our program coordinators, they'll help you with that placement.
Okay,
You know, and some allow you to do it where you're working, some don't. So you just, it kind of depends on the track you're in. So,
okay. Thank
uh, yeah, there's also a couple of essays. I say essays. One is like 300 words, which is not terribly long, and the other one I think is please don't go over 1,200 words or something like that. And it's the first one is why do you want to go to graduate school, and the second one is why this specialization. Why do you want to be a TBI? Why do you want to be a VRT? Those kinds of things. Um, and we put a lot of weight in those statements. We really do. That's, your GPA when you did your undergrad, uh,
Right, like 20 something years ago, you know?
yeah, 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 for me it was a lot longer, but no, we have people who really, most of our folks are second or third career folks who come
Mhm.
in, didn't even know about the profession. And maybe it has been 20 plus years since, and most of us don't really care that you had a 2.8 instead of a 3.0. We take that piece as just that. It's just a piece of the whole package that we look at. So,
Okay.
the essays and why you want to do it makes a lot of sense. And when we look at this, and there's also an interview, it's done remotely through Zoom, but we interview everybody who has shown interest or applies. And the reason is it's not, we're trying to figure out if you're a good fit for our program. We want to make sure we're a good fit for you. And occasionally, especially with O&M, since we do have that one in-person course where you're learning to teach orientation and mobility, teach street crossings and things like that. We don't do that theoretically and online. So,
Right,
and a lot of other universities do it like in 6-week increments, like a couple of summers, you come back for 6 weeks. That's not how we do it. So we may suggest, that you try another program. Not because we don't want you to go through our program, but we want it to be a good fit for you. And
right.
we want, like I said, it's a two-way street. We want to try to make sure that you're okay with our program and how we can make that work for you. Or if not, we know most of the other programs, so we can just refer you to someone else if that's a better push, so to speak.
Okay. And oh my gosh, what was I just gonna say? Just totally went out of my head. For the TVI, oh, the one she mentioned there was one weekend in Boston. Is that correct? Where you have
There,
to do it in person?
there is, but we have people from the Middle East, we have people from Puerto Rico, we have people from the Pacific Islands, and so we work around doing that. We don't make those folks come in. But
No.
yes, if you're local, it's where you learn the orientation mobility that a TBI would do, or daily living skills. And so we tend to have that lab in the area,
Okay.
but we work with folks who don't live.
So it's not just a one weekend. That's what I was thinking. Like it's just a one weekend date and you have to be there or, you know,
Unless you're in Puerto Rico or somewhere far
far. Okay.
away, then we work something else out. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Most of our programs have tuition support. We have federal grants. Now, if you're not a citizen, if you live outside the United States or outside of the associated territories, like Puerto Rico is an associated territory, Guam is associated territory. But if you live in Canada, for instance, you can't use the federal grant support. They just because it's federal money, so they want the outcomes to be here. They don't track where you go, but the service obligation basically is we provide tuition support where you may, depending on the grant, but you may pay $500 a course instead of $1,050 a course if you accept the grant. And then they just want you, when you finish, to work 2 years for every 1 year of support you received. And you have to do that before you go live in Spain and work. But you can go anywhere you want to, but that's the service obligation with these federal grants. But we also have a reduced tuition. Right now, we are $350. It's still money, I understand. $350 a credit. So a 3-credit course is $1,050. A 4-credit course is $1,400. We don't have any other credits, so that's it. And that's without any assistance at all. Whereas the university right now is $525 a credit hour for the graduate courses. So we're quite a bit under, which is nice that we've been able to do that. But I realize it's still a bit of money. So what else do you want to know?
I have another one. Since we
Sure.
were talking about money with the tuition stuff, I've seen a couple different salaries for the TVIs.
Mhm.
Wondering what the average starting
Hmm.
is.
Oh, it's probably,
Does it depend on the
Oh.
state or is it just a
It just really depends on where you are, not just the state, but whether it's urban or local, or rural. And it's also like if you go down to Texas, their salaries are cheaper,
Mm.
they're less. But even amongst New England, some agencies are paying less. I know Rhode Island TBIs start out making some really good money. But I don't want to quote anybody just because
Yeah.
I may be wrong. But it really depends on where you're going.
Okay.
In Rhode Island, you're part of the union, so it was amazing to me. Yeah. Let's see. Now I can see the chat. Prerequisites to be a living skills instructor. Do you mean I assume you mean a vision rehab therapist? Is that what you mean? Yeah. All of our courses, all of our programs have all the courses required, except for TVI, and there are a few if you don't already have a teaching license. But all the ACVREP courses or the CVI or deaf blind, they contain everything you would need. So there's no prerequisites for any of those. If you want TBI, I can kind of tell you what those are, if that's what you're interested in. But you said daily living skills, so yeah. No, it's all, that's why we don't have electives, because every single course has to do with that particular either vision impairment or that particular specialization. So now I can stop talking. What do you really want to know about?
So we have no questions here in the room, physical attendees. So I'll just continue to leave it open for anybody who's joining remotely. But I will say, as a graduate, highly recommend UMass Boston. Absolutely love it. We have 2 graduates in the room right now with us here, and we both were from UMass Boston. We love it. We had a really great experience, and obviously we are employed. So it was a great time. Somebody asked, how long does it take to get the degree? Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah, if you're doing the full master's, since almost all of our folks, like 99% of our graduate students have families other than themselves. They work. Typically 2 courses a semester is kind of the max that's what we typically suggest. We have had a few people who are in a situation where they can double up a little bit. No, I shouldn't say double up, but take 3 courses instead of 2. If the program coordinator okays that, you can do it. Usually it's in TBI where people have done that. We only offer some of our courses one time a year. So sometimes that makes it a little bit harder. And on the converse side, if you're deciding you're going to kind of do one course at a time, then that's fine. It'll take you a little bit longer because you've got typically 11 courses to take for a master's. The graduate certificate, especially if you're adding on to a credential you already have, then they're faster. But what is nice is that we have tuition support for pretty much for anyone who wants it. Our federal grant that supports VRTs, O&Ms who work with adults, and assistive technology folks who work with adults. So just on the adult part of that spectrum, we're in our last year of that. They don't do competitions every year. So they do a competition, they fund everybody for 5 years who is chosen. And then at the end of the 5 years, they put out another request for proposal. And so it's kind of a competition every 5 years, if that makes sense. So I feel fairly confident we will get it, but the competition has not been announced yet. And I don't know, exactly. Usually we know about it in the spring, and then it'll start funding in the fall. So that's the only one. The others are all new grants, and they've got 4 or 5 years left on them. Some of our grants have become competitive, in that we've got so many people who qualified that we can't guarantee everybody would get funding, but for the most part, we've been able to fund everyone so far. We just can't. I think we took in 119 new students last year across, not counting deafblind because it wasn't going then, but across our different specializations. That's a lot, even though we're kind of still a small program. We're either the second largest or the largest in North America right now. So we're a small program, but yeah, so there may be some competition, but for the most part, if you don't have funding from the agency you work for or work with, then we try really hard to give you tuition support. And sometimes students don't want the grant because they have plans to move to England, or they want to travel the world or something, and they know that service obligation would tie them down a bit to the United States. So they may not want it. It doesn't happen that often, but occasionally it does. So
Laura, I have a quick question. Folks here are wondering how often do you have students that apply that are visually impaired themselves that are going into one of the different TBI, VRT comms, and then how accessible is the program? So, what does that look like for them?
yeah, that's a great question. We always have folks with vision impairment or blindness applying, more so in TVI, VRT, probably less applicants in O&M, but we do have them. We have graduated, I say a lot, there haven't been that many. I would say every year we have folks with vision impairment applying to some of the other AT, some of the other tracks. O&M, we don't have folks every year, but we have had them. Canvas is completely accessible. There's also the Ross Center for Disability, and basically their role is to make sure that anyone with a documented disability has access to the content. Um, we always we use textbooks and things that come in electronic format. Some of the sighted students order them in EPUBs because they prefer it. That's certainly on the individual's grad student to order the format that works best for them. But the Ross Center is good to get registered because that way they can just let us know this person needs extra time on test in case a quiz or a test is timed, because maybe you're using a screen reader or something like that, and you might need a little more time. They also are really good about things like, what do they call them? Intermittent disabilities. An example, someone who has debilitating migraines. They don't know when they're coming. They have no idea. And so that's an intermittent disability that can come up with no notice. And they have that worked out with the Ross Center, and they just send a letter to the instructor saying, this person may need so many days extra to turn in something in case they're hit with this migraine. I'll just use that as an example. It could be, a mental health situation. It could be a lot of things, but things that just they're not living with every day. So it's kind of nice. I mean, it's nice that there are different options that way. We have, I think how many? We have two instructors who have vision impairment. Um, yeah, and so all of our stuff, and Rachel, who does not have a vision impairment that I know of, but she's in charge of the assistive technology for VI. She is constantly, like, we're getting ready to send out texts and things that are required for courses offered in the spring. And Rachel's wonderful because she always looks at it for me to make sure that what I'm sending to all of our students, some of whom, uh, have vision impairment or other disabilities, I want to make sure that it's accessible, that even though it's a Word doc, that is easily accessible, not just, if you try for 4 hours, you might be able to read it. Um, so she works with us to make sure that what goes out is accessible, but the courses are accessible, and yeah, and it's very common to have people with vision impairment in our courses.
Thank you, Laura. I think that's really great, especially I know you mentioned that for many, these different programs may be somebody's second or third career. So
Yeah.
especially for our folks who are newer to vision loss that may be looking for a new career, that this is could be a really good avenue if they're interested. So thank you.
Sure, sure. There are I probably should give you the whole caveat. There are expectations of every student, doesn't matter vision impairment, disability or not, that they're able to attach a document, that they're able to handle a Word document, that they're able to email. I say that because we've had people, now it's been a while, but we've had people come in the program and didn't know how to attach something, whether it's to an email or what, and that ends up how you upload an assignment, is you attach it within the course platform. So, um, you have to have the same skills to be in graduate school like that. You know, if you're new and you're still trying to work with JAWS or whatever, then it's good to kind of get those skills in place because you'll be using them, because you'll be doing a lot of reading, and yeah, and just to be ready. We try really hard to help any way we can, but it's things like making sure you order the text in the format you want. We don't order them for you. I've had people quite a few times say, would you please order my books for me? No, I can't do that because I wouldn't do it for the other people in your class. I mean, so we have to
Yeah, no, of course.
we have to kind of be careful. I got my hand slapped probably 3 years after I started at UMass because I was just doing stuff, and people didn't want to go to the Ross Center for any reason, just didn't want to declare they had a disability, which I understand. And so I was just doing stuff. It's giving them extra time and stuff like that. And then I was told that I could be sued because I wasn't doing that for everyone, which kind of made some sense. So I pulled back and stopped. I just I just do what they've also gotten a lot better in saying, because if I'm a person with a vision impairment and I go to the Ross Center, you don't have to go in person, but if I contact the Ross Center, I need to be able to tell them, they're certainly not blindness professionals. I need to be able to tell them what I need. I need to be able to advocate for myself and tell them what I need. We actually have a student who's almost finished now, uh, totally blind and totally deaf. And so there's both distance senses are not working. So that was a little bit different for us just to make sure that that all of that person's um, experiences are accessible, and things have worked really well. Uh, this person
Thank
needs
you.
a tactile, yeah, a tactile interpreter, and the Ross Center paid for it, and yeah, so
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. And non-shameless plug. If anybody needs any technology training, you can always give us a call here at the Carroll Center and we can help you out. But I
definitely.
do have a question from somebody in the audience here in person. She was
Mhm.
wondering, do any of the instructors speak multiple languages? Because she was
Ooh,
listening to all the folks who come to UMass Boston for training. And so I thought that was a really good question.
that's interesting. That's a great question. It's funny because some of our folks who are in the doctoral program, Callie Brusegard is a graduate from the school's doctoral program. It's in global inclusion and social development. So she's a TVI. I know she wouldn't mind me saying this. She brought her years of experience as a TVI and worked on like children in the Pacific Islands and access to education. They have a whole lot of children in this area who have achromatopsia and microphthalmia and anophthalmia. And so many times those kids just weren't in school because nobody knew what to do with them because they had no TBIs, no O&Ms. And so she did her dissertation kind of on that. But one of the requirements for the doctoral program is that if you're an English speaker, you've got to have some command of another language. It could be sign language, but another language before you finish. And you might think of this because her last name is Brusegard. Callie's Norwegian, so she's taken quite a bit of Norwegian language courses um, in college, and so she met that competency. Um, I believe. I don't think Derek would mind me saying this. Derek Wright is fairly fluent in Spanish. He's done a lot of work in Mexico, and when we had students in our program from Puerto Rico, he was doing a lot of our translating for us, not from the courses, but just in emails to them. Let me see, who else? Uh, Allie might speak some French. I think Tammy speaks some French. Sign language, we've got sign language all over the place in some of our instructors. And I don't know about Dan actually. So I don't know. I'm pretty lousy, but I have some Spanish. I minored in Spanish, so I have some Spanish background myself.
Nice.
But I'm not as good as Derek. Derek's better. So
Thank you so much, Laura. I'm just realizing the time, so I just wanted to thank you again for being here today, for your presentation, for teaching all of us about the vision profession, everything that UMass Boston has to offer. And hopefully, yeah, people will continue to reach out and, we look forward to the recording and of course, the PowerPoint that you shared with us today. So thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. And my email, it's on the PowerPoint. I just need to fix that one thing on the PowerPoint, but my email, in case you want to ask me anything, and I'll get you to the right person if I'm not the right person, is Laura, Laura .Bozeman, Bozeman, @umb.edu. So, it was great. Thanks for the opportunity.